The Lesser Soulflow engine. An item that was initially released with the Ender Slayer update has been floating around in the game for just over 3 months now. Within the first day of release, people had already come out with these crazy videos claiming their minions were earning 220 million coins per day, 110 million coins per day, and other crazy bold statements. But with the hype completely gone now and the market's fully stabilized, are these numbers still any accurate? To test this, I went out and ran some tests with 30 lesser Soulflow engines, testing how they functioned on different minion types and comparing the profits to not using them at all. As for the results, well, you'll have to watch the video for that. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Alrighty, so as you can see, today's video is going to be covering the lesser Soulflow engine, and this item is not really too much news to too many people. It's been in the game for quite some time now, and a lot of people have made a couple of videos on it already. However, these videos were really only made when the item first was released, and since then, a lot of things have changed, and I figured I'd go ahead, run some tests, crunch the numbers, do some calculations, and provide you guys with a proper guide on how these Soulflow engines work. Is it worth it? Should you buy it? And at what stage of the game should you go for it if you are going to buy it? So to start things off here, what is the Soulflow engine? Well, there's actually two different types of Soulflow engines in Hypixel Skyblock, one being the lesser Soulflow engine, and then of course the normal Soulflow engine. Now both of these have an Enderman Slayer requirement, and the lesser Soulflow engine has an Enderman Slayer 2 requirement versus the Enderman Slayer 5 requirement of the regular Soulflow engine. But as far as I'm aware, this is just for the recipe. You can get somebody to craft it for you, so when it comes to actually getting these, you don't really have to be Enderman Slayer 2 or Enderman Slayer 5. Now for this video, I really will only be focusing the lesser Soulflow engine, as the regular Soulflow engine, I will talk about it a little bit towards the end of the video, but you'll see why it's not the main focus point. So we're going to be talking about the lesser Soulflow engine for all the stuff in today's video. Now you may be asking, well, what does this thing do? Now that we know that how much it costs roughly and the requirements and whatnot, what is this thing for? Well, if you read the stats here, it says that placing it in a minion will reduce the minion's output by 50%, but it will also start generating Soulflow items. Now, what does it mean by Soulflow items? Well, what it actually means is that every 3 minutes, it will produce 1 raw Soulflow, which means that every 8 hours, it produces 1 regular Soulflow, which is crafted with 160 raw Soulflow. Now, if we scale this up even further, with this logic, a minion using a lesser Soulflow engine should produce 3 regular Soulflow every 24 hours, which means that if you have 30 minions with Soulflow engines all on them, they should produce around 90 Soulflow every 24 hours. Now, if we take a look at the price of 90 Soulflow right now on the bazaar, if I was to insta-buy them, which means that if you want the maximum profit, you would be making a sell offer to get the most value for money, it would cost you around 3.994, or just to make it easier, 4 million coins if you were to buy 90 Soulflow right now, which means that if you were to have 30 minions and they all had lesser Soulflow engines in them, you would be earning around 4 million coins off of just the Soulflow alone. This is excluding all the other materials that you would be earning from the minion regularly. So right off the bat, this seems like it's a very good deal. This upgrade is very powerful if it's going to be guaranteeing you 4 million coins every 24 hours, and that just goes for every single minion in the game. You don't have to put this on the minion that earns the most amount of coins possible. You can put it on any minion and it'll earn the same amount of Soulflow. But of course, with everything that sounds too good to be true, there is always a catch, and I will get to that later on in this video. But before we go into how much it would cost to actually buy the engines, and also how long it would take to pay them off, I just want to go over the numbers that I actually got for today's video to really verify and see if you do earn 90 Soulflow every 24 hours. So as you can see right in front of me, I have 5 double chests right here. Now, each one of these chests has the loot from both a full Soulflow collection, and then on this side, I have collections that did not have any Soulflow to compare the amount of money we do earn, and I also tried this with 2 different minions. Now, right off the bat here, you can definitely see that we earned 87 regular Soulflow from this minion collection here, and if you do recall what I just said earlier, we were supposed to earn around 90 Soulflow, so the results do stay pretty accurate. If you're wondering where that extra 3 Soulflow actually went, there's always times where you are AFKing on the island and maybe a couple of the mobs weren't actually killed by the minions, and because you do have to account for a lot of different discrepancies and factors that do come into play when running these tests, you're always bound to not get perfect values, and the theoretical values you do get through calculations are never going to be the same as the experimental values. But back to the collection that we do have here, we also ended up getting 5 stacks of enchanted obsidian and almost half a stack spare of enchanted obsidian, alongside just under a full stack of enchanted quartz and just some spare enchanted ender pearls as well. Now, if you were to go and sell all these materials the normal way, I would highly suggest that you just go ahead and then make sell offers for all of these materials, because as you can see, if I was to sell my Soulflow right now just with a sell offer and making the best offer possible, I would get about 3.6 million coins out of it, as opposed to the amount that you would get just insta selling, which in this case you lose around 200,000 coins, which is not ideal. But for the sake of this video, I'll be selling everything instantly just to make things a lot easier to compare. So if I show you how much money we made from a full collection of Soulflow Voidling minions, you can see that if I hover over the sell inventory now button, we get about 4.7 million coins if you were to insta sell everything, which if we were to estimate how much it would be with sell offers, I would say it's around 5 million coins per 24 hours if you use 30 tier 5 Voidling minions with the Soulflow engines. Now that is some really solid money. 5 million coins per 24 hours is definitely not a laughable amount, and I'm sure that a lot of people in this game don't even earn anywhere near 2 to 3 million coins every 24 hours off of their minions. So being able to earn 5 million coins is definitely a very appealing offer. But before we talk about the pricing and costing, we'll also go ahead and compare the amount that I got from my Lapis minions to see if it holds any differently. Now, similar to the Voidling minions, I did end up getting 87 regular Soulflow. However, this time around, I did get a little bit more of the raw Soulflow, so it was a slightly more accurate test. But once again, it was still pretty good, as we do have some pretty comparable results here. But once again, like we did just before, if I go ahead and hover over the sell inventory now button, you can see that we earned about 4.5 million coins off of just the Lapis minions with the insta selling. Now this actually performed surprisingly better than what I expected. If we were to account for the sell offers here as well, to get a rough estimate of how much money we would get if we were to make sell offers, the amount earned would be around 4.7 to 4.8 million coins, which in comparison to the Voidling minions is only 200,000 coins less per day, and the Voidling minions are definitely a lot more expensive and nowhere near as affordable as the Lapis minions. However, the main reason that I did test 2 different types of minions was to really see if using a certain type of minion produced more Soulflow than the other, and we've able to deduce the fact that this just does not happen. No matter what minion you do use, you should be producing the same amount of Soulflow as you would on a Voidling compared to a Snow minion, so in that regard, it really doesn't matter. Now, just for comparison's sake, I did go ahead and I also collected a full 24-hour collection of no Soulflow Lapis minions, and I also did the exact same thing for a no Soulflow Voidling minion. And just to contrast the amount of money you would earn from a 24-hour collection of no AFK of both minions, the Voidling minions made approximately 2.7 million coins in the 24 hours, while the Lapis minions made approximately 3.125 million coins. Now, what's really interesting to note here is that the Voidling minions were actually a lot worse than the Lapis minions without the Soulflow, but as soon as you added the Soulflow to the Voidling minions, they immediately became better than the Lapis minions by a pretty decent amount. I will talk later on in the video as to why this happens and also what minions you should be using these Soulflow engines on. But now that we have gone through all the experimental data and I've shown you guys that these Soulflow engines are pretty powerful and make some good money, let's go ahead and cover the cost of these Soulflow engines, how much money it takes to earn it all back, and some other further notes that I would like to add to this video. So if we go back to this screen right here, if you weren't looking beforehand, the average price of a lesser Soulflow engine is around 4.15 million coins as lowest bid on the auction house. Now these prices do stay pretty consistent if you were to buy them all off the auction house right now, and the price jump really only goes to about 500k extra if you were to buy all the Soulflow engines on this page right here. But as you can see, it is cheaper to craft these Soulflow engines if you have the recipe and you can just buy the materials. So for comparison's sake here, I'm just going to say that these Soulflow engines are 4 million coins on average if you were to either craft it or just buy it off the auction house. So now we've determined that the price of one lesser Soulflow engine is around 4 million coins. If we're to multiply this by 30 for all 30 minions that I would be using, the total cost for all these Soulflow engines comes out to about 120 million coins. And if you couldn't tell already, that is a very hefty price. This is one of the few things that I was alluding to at the beginning of the video where I said that there is a little bit of a catch. But with that being said, if we were to divide the amount of money that it does cost to actually buy the engines, which in this case is 120 million coins, coins. And then we went ahead and we divided it by the amount of money that we do earn every 24 hours with the Voidling minions, which in this case was around 5 million coins. This means that with these perfect numbers, it would take you exactly 24 days to earn all of the money back from the engines, but realistically with some more accurate numbers, it would take approximately 30 to 32 days, depending on market changes and just fluctuations in general. But as you can see, 24 days, that's actually really good. Initially, it would be a very hefty price tag to pay if you were to buy 30 of these lesser Soulflow engines, but if you decide to play Skyblock for at least a month extra after you buy them, you will have guaranteed to have made your money back at some point down the line. And once you do break even, you will be making a significantly higher amount of money from your minions. And the best part about it is that you can use some really expensive minions like the Voidling minions to help you earn back all that money. And then if you choose to use the lesser Soulflow engines on something else because you just decided to swap your minions, you would be able to, and you would still be making some really good money with the Soulflow that it does produce, which makes it a pretty worthwhile investment. And honestly, it does seem like it's a really good deal. As for the ideal minions that you should be using the engines on, this really just depends on the prices of different items on the bazaar, but as a general rule of thumb, Tarantula and Voidling minions are the best to put the engines on, but Lapis minions, Rabbit minions, Sheep minions, and I think Quartz and Obsidian minions are also really good options. And to the few people who have made it this far in the video, I'll leave a special link down in the description below that should help you determine the best minions with the current market changes. You can use the Soulflow engines on something like a Snow minion or a Clay minion, although I wouldn't really recommend it because you are cutting down the production of the materials by 50%. And because Snow and Clay minions are more XP focused minions because their money production just isn't very high, you can use these Soulflow engines to earn the roughly 4 million coins that you would get out of these Soulflow alone, but it kind of defeats the purpose of using Snow and Clay minions, so I just wouldn't really recommend it. Now, as of the time of me recording this video, I don't believe that the Voidling AFK setup or a Tarantula or really any other AFK setup actually makes more money than these Soulflow engines. But what I am trying to say here is to always keep an eye on the bazaar prices for specific items, because if things do skyrocket due to an event that happened, or because a mayor was released, or really just anything in particular actually happens, there are some opportunities where the Soulflow engine does get outclassed, and it isn't always going to be the best option for money. Needless to say though, generally speaking, the Soulflow engine will be one of the best ways to earn money off of your minions. So if you just want to slap some minions down and just let them run for a very long time, and you don't really care about checking the markets and stuff, then just buy some Voidling or some Tarantula minions, get yourself a full setup of these lesser Soulflow engines, and just leave them running and don't really care about them. And now that we have all of that information out of the way, should you buy the lesser Soulflow engine? Well, if you are an early to mid-game player, the obvious answer is simply no. But if you are somebody like myself who's been playing the game for quite some time, you are probably in the late to end game stages of this game, and you would like to just have some really good minions, set them down, let them do their thing, and just earn some passive income every day, then yes, it is most definitely worth buying these Soulflow engines, because they make some really good money, they pay off the investment early on as well, and they make pretty much any minion viable in terms of coins, so you don't have to go out and really spend too much money on Voidlings if you don't want to, but it is recommended to go out and buy the more expensive minions if you do want to make the most money possible. Now for my final point of this video, I did say that I was going to briefly mention the Soulflow engine as well, being the normal Soulflow engine as opposed to the lesser Soulflow engine. And now this thing is very interesting. If you can't tell by this recipe here, it actually costs 4 lesser engines in order to make just the one regular one, and I went ahead and did the maths, and it costs around 44 million coins for just one regular Soulflow engine, and with the price being 44 million per Soulflow engine, it costs in between 1.3 billion to 1.35 billion coins. Realistically, it seems very far out of the question, and the normal Soulflow engine just doesn't look good at all. But that is making quick judgment off of the price tag alone. There is a very special perk here if we read down the bottom where it says, while equipped on a Voidling minion, output is increased by 3% per minion level. And if I have this understood correctly, that means that a tier 5 Voidling minion will have a 15% speed boost, but a tier 11 Voidling minion will have a 33% speed boost. Now, unfortunately, I do not have any numbers on the normal Soulflow engine at all. I don't really know how much it actually produces every 24 hours, nor do I know really any of the things that it does do to the Voidling minion Minion either. I will leave that up to a future video that I might be able to do later down the line, but for the meantime, I just wouldn't recommend going for it at all until some better testing has really been done on it. But with that being said, that is going to wrap up everything that I did have for today's video. Hopefully you guys did find this useful or informative in some way, and maybe it gave you guys a bit more insight before buying your own lesser Soulflow engines. If it did, then please do leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel because I make Hypixel Skyblock videos every Wednesdays and Fridays. And these can range anywhere between normal guide videos to some cool speedruns, or just some funny stream highlights. But with all that being said, that is going to wrap up everything that I did have for today's video. And as always, take care and peace. Bro, Gab has 5 girlfriends. That's in the past. That's in the past. I don't have 5 girlfriends anymore. I have 8. Okay, get it right. Come on, bro. Come on. No, I've actually got 4 wives, 100 girlfriends, 3 dogs, 12 boyfriends, a couple of keyboards,